Everybody, and thank you for showing up. It's always tough after a full day's work, but we'll try to always have food and beverages for you for your heroic effort to get here in person, and also welcome to the people on Zoom. For many reasons, that works out when in person doesn't, and we welcome you also. So my name's Einor Sawyer. I work in Innovation Ventures. I'm also an orthopedist here at UCSF. And another role is, since I'm looking right at Dan, is I run the UC Space Health Program. So if you're interested in out of this world science, please let me know. But tonight we're going to launch the UCSF Innovator Seminars. And this is a series of what we hope will become core knowledge, skills, expertise for those of you who want to become frontline innovators. And it's challenging, but it's very, very exciting, and it can be very impactful to you, but to many others that you help. So we would really like to support you in that endeavor. And so for a brief agenda, we'll have an overview. Tonight's program is really an introduction to the series, and then we'll have lots more detailed lectures that follow this on a monthly basis. So we'll give an overview of Innovation Ventures. Dr. Peter Chrysonis will be providing that. And also I'll be going back then and providing a more detailed view of what helped us launch this series, the Innovator Enrichment Program, and also I'll speak a little bit about frontline innovation, but there'll be more of that to follow in the series later. Nate's going to help by talking about some resources that are readily available to you already, so that if you get inspired or you're already inspired to be an innovator, no matter what stage you're at, early or experienced, there are resources we want you to know about, and we'll keep doing that every time we meet. We'll add on more resources that become available, and then we'll have discussion, Q&A. All right. So first of all, this is the seminar series flyer that you've seen. The QR code will work each time. So after tonight, when you hit that QR code, it should link to the next session. The meetings will always be in Genentech Hall and Zoom, usually this room or upstairs in 227, which some of you know as the teaching lab. And we're going to cover most of the topics, hopefully, that you would need to try to get your career developed and launched as a frontline innovator, but also to launch some innovations from idea to impact. And this course is going to serve as a foundation for what we're hoping to build as an innovator curriculum with a certificate, so that those of us who came from science, medicine, computation, anything where we don't actually get curriculum in innovation, that will allow you to become one of the valued intersection people. And with a certificate to show that, so that will help you actually when you go for your annual review, et cetera. That will be a metric, but it gives you a foundation to move into that pathway. We do have institutional level commitment. Most of you know Catherine Lucy, who's our Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost. And she's really frank about the fact that UCSF's top priorities include inspiring, identifying, and investing in frontline innovators who are translating novel ideas into beneficial impact at scale for healthcare and life sciences. So to be at an institution that has that support from at the very highest is really helpful. And also we have inspiring leaders, and many of you probably know Atul Butte, who's inspired me for many years, and he says we shouldn't just be supporting innovators in this academic medical center and all academic medical centers, but we should celebrate them. And some of you who have worked down the pathway of becoming an innovator probably know that you may sometimes have to justify to your chairman why you're dabbling in this stuff when they're looking at other metrics for research, clinical care, education, et cetera. So we're hoping to move into more supportive but also celebrated roles. And then Peter Katsanis is also completely committed to this as the leader of Innovation Ventures, and he wants to develop programs that help not only support frontline innovators, but help with early identification for those innovators, but also for impactful innovations. And I think what we'll do then is switch gears and let Dr. Katsanis tell you about Innovation Ventures as an overview.
No, thank you so much, Aino. And again, on behalf of Innovation Ventures, welcome. I think it's an important community we're trying to build. And so it's up to us to build it and bring it and get folks together and then nurture those innovators from pre-innovator all the way to frontline innovator, entrepreneur and beyond. I've just got a handful of slides on Innovation Ventures. Our function is there to be your commercialization partner. It's a dedicated business development unit. It sits inside the provost. It's there to serve the internal community and serve the outside world. So really, we're trying to take your nascent discoveries, ideas, protect them, get them into a patient, get them to the market, community and patient benefit and impact. So next slide. Oh, it's pretty straightforward, it turns out. Um, you may not fully appreciate that UCSF has played a pivotal role in the birth of the biotechnology industry. And it goes back 48 years to some seminal discoveries in the early 70s, to intellectual property, and eventually the formation of Genentech, key investors, products. And so again, a very early example of our role from discovering through to foundational intellectual property that became the basis of a startup. And again, if you look at 2022, it's, I don't know, a 2-year-old kind of a data point, but 240 startups have come from inside these walls, the discoveries made inside these walls. So again, we've played a key role in nurturing that industry, and we're right here in a geography where we can make an impact on innovation and translation. Again, just looking at our numbers, over 200 startups. In 2023 alone, those startups that are still active raised a sizable amount of funds in an environment we know is challenging through the economics around the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, high interest rates, etc. Again, a number of patents, active inventors, 100 plus products to market. We had a strong year in terms of our licensing revenue, over $50 million from licensees and they've taken to intellectual property. Again, you know this, we are, the #1 NIH recipient of public funds as a public institution. So that shows the NIH is, investing funds, or at least we're attracting funds from a central funding agency. And again, just looking at this picture, here's Dr. Reese Knight at one of our ophthalmology showcases a few months ago, and he's formed a company called Salvista. He's got a corneal sensoring intraocular pressure device. And there's an audience of investors who could potentially help stand up this company and get this product to the market and to the patient. So again, those are our metrics. A real example there of a frontline innovator presenting to the investor community here at UCSF. Again, we've been very impactful in terms of just approved products that have gone through the FDA. And beyond the financials, these have health and societal impact. They are breakthrough technologies. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of EndeavorX. So Dan, you're familiar with EndeavorX. So again, it's a game that began inside the Sandler building. And from game, it went to a concept, to something we could protect, to something we could commercialize. It's the first FDA-approved digital therapeutic that's prescribed by a doctor for children with ADHD, ages 8 to 12. And so who would have guessed that a game could have an impact in children with ADHD, discovered here within inside our walls? The middle product, Voxelotor, Oxbrita, again, it's a sickle cell disease small molecule therapy approved by the FDA in children and adults. Some of the inventors of this product were in that seminar across the hall. So Andre Saleh, Matt Jacobson, Jack Taunton. So Chem Pharmaceutical Sciences, they came together, disclosed this structure to our office in 2014. We worked with them to help get that licensed to Global Blood Therapeutics. They went to the FDA. They got acquired by Pfizer. It's on the market treating adults and children in a relatively short time frame. To the right is an example of a gene therapy trial that we are running right now at UCSF. We're looking to go to the FDA in 2026 with an approved product. It's Navajo children with a founder's mutation. It's an immune deficiency. There's only like 10 children that present nationally. We don't make money from this treatment, but there's an important unmet medical need. an example of how we can work together with our doctors to help get that to the FDA in 2026. So again, examples of health and societal impact cases. And so as we think about the path to the market and the patient, these are just a few of our select startups. Either we've helped create them through the resources inside Innovation Ventures, develop a business plan, go to market strategy, find the C-level folks and stand up the organization and incorporate, or they've taken a license to our intellectual property. And so you'll see these examples in the midst of, I guess, COVID and challenging financing conditions. Sana Biotechnology went public. At one point, they were worth $4.9 billion. They're in phase 1 clinical trials right now. So you see a few examples from going public, IPO, all the way to raising significant Series A or Series B funds. And down below, Reliviant was acquired by Boston Scientific for almost $1 billion. So working with you and with your innovation, we can translate that into meaningful startups that create jobs, provide medicines, have societal impact. And again, that's, startups is one path. The other path to a patient can be via a co-development arrangement with an industry partner that at scale can take our discoveries and take them into patients, go to the FDA, and then launch the product and get it through Europe, North America, different geographies. And again, across the street, we have a partnership with GlaxoSmithKline. We've formed a partnership with Genentech and Roche. We also have created a cell therapy facility with Thermo Fisher. So just flavors of partnerships with industry partners working with us to co-develop and get something to the patient. Okay, and I'll wrap up very quickly. Again, our role is to help you with the innovator journey. The left-hand side are where the frontline innovators are across UCSF, like you folks. And they could be in any department. It could be a program. It could be the School of Medicine. It could be, I don't know, the Weill Institute. And across modalities from therapeutics, diagnostics, digital, how do we take that nascent idea, work with you as a disclosure, protect it as a patent where possible, and then get it to the other side in the form of some type of partnership. And finally, just looking at our core units with Innovation Ventures, each one of these will present to this audience over the coming months, but there are 5 units. Office of Tech Management and Advancement is there to help you create a startup or take a license, protect your IP, build business plans, go to market strategies, go from nascent idea to the startup. So that group will present here in a workshop format. How do you create a startup? The Office of Strategic Alliances is there to help work with industry partners and co-development. You've got funding streams, Invent and Catalyst. There's translational funds that we can deploy to help nurture those projects and get over the hump with regards to the valley of death and create more value and find a partner or a home. Enrichment is something Ainul's developed that's new to the office and highly important, and she'll share more about that. And then there's an entrepreneurial program which teaches entrepreneurship, provide mentorship, and that's run by Stephanie Maris. And again, I'll bring Ainul back to the podium, walk you through the enrichment program and how it was built to help the community. So, thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Very helpful. And the reason we're spending a little time on the Innovator Enrichment Program, it is new, but it was designed just for you because we do care about making transformative things, innovations, but we really care about developing innovators. As you'll see, the phrase comes up a couple of times, no bees, no honey, but you are such a valuable asset here. And this is what I want to get into now. And why do we consider that so important? Well, first of all, frontline innovators are vital in any industry. They're the strength from within the organization. So first of all, no matter what field you're in, and what setting you're in, you're on the front lines. And so you actually experience and witness the pain points and understand them better than anybody from the outside who's trying to innovate because they've read about the problem. And so we also know that you can understand the healthcare delivery, you can conceptualize solutions. In fact, we're doing it all day long. I'm a clinician and a researcher. We're constantly trying to solve problems for each person sitting in front of us, or to actually break through where we're stuck in our own work. And so we also know where these solutions that we come up with could fit into the workflow, or where we also have to disrupt the workflow. And we talk about innovation in terms of personnel, process, and technology. So we're always thinking of it in context. We also have capabilities around evaluation. And that is really important. We have skills in evaluation. We have a setting that's highly scientifically rigorous. So that part's important. As I say to outside investors, that evidence isn't just a good business model, it's the only business model. If you don't build evidence along the way, you might get an early pilot, but you'll never get enterprise procurement because you skipped building the evidence. And you also have to implement the technology, or as I say, if you're a frontline innovator, you're going to swim in your own soup. So the things you're building, you're also going to be using, or they're going to be impacting your patients or people around you. So that part is important. Also, we have a sense of wanting to monitor after the implementation. So implementation's hard. And that piece of it, we really understand how disruptive that can be to your workflow at a lab bench or to your clinic setting, or especially in the OR. So implementation is another science that we seem to understand and be a part of. But then we want to monitor after the implementation and reiterate, make it better. Also, we want to fix the next problem. So people ask me all the time, what do you mean by innovator versus entrepreneur? And for some people, it's a continuum. For some people, it's a boomerang. You innovate, 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 then you go out with your company, stand it up, raise funds, et cetera, and then you come back into the clinical setting. But for a lot of people, they are serial frontline innovators. They want to stay on the front lines, but they want to keep coming up with new solutions and fixing them, and then getting them out. And if it's a novel, impactful technology, they want to scale it so it has bigger impact. So those are some of the terms in the way that I use them. Other people might use them differently. Now, the other thing is there are many front lines. So it's not just the provider or the researcher, but all around this equation are many stakeholders. But also, by being on the front lines, you're in touch with these different frontline participants, and all of them make a difference in your solution, the way it's shaped, the way it ends up getting implemented, and whether it's successful or not. We also understand that we really need transformative solutions, not just things that win the pitch award or raise some money. We really need things that are going to make a difference on multiple levels. We're now up to quadruple aims, but I think that number is going to go higher soon. But we want to demonstrate value. We know these have to be sustainable. So we've got to be able to make sure that the benefit of them and the cost are in some sort of a balance that makes sense. Either they generate new revenue, or they create a return on investment, or they save money, which is a hard model but important. And then there's an impact understanding on the system. What does it cost the system to add something new? It always costs the system. What does it cost in terms of time or personnel disruption? So there are costs that we have an understanding of from the front lines. We also know that we don't want any more point solutions. We need integrated solutions. So even if you're not building the whole end-to-end journey, make sure you know what your compatibles are, what's on the next step before or after you, so that you're integrating with those things and planning, whether it's on a hardware or software basis, or even on the computational basis. So we look across and try to understand, if you're going to solve this problem, where does it fit in this giant meandering system? And each thing has to connect well, or it doesn't help us to have people bring in point solutions. We also know that healthcare is complicated. And on the outside, we've heard several times, especially a particular venture capitalist who I'm fond of, but I was on a panel with, and I'm saying we need more people on the front lines involved in innovation. He's at the other end of the panel saying we need to take doctors out of this and fix it from the outside by tech companies. So we always have a running joke about this. The problem is you can't oversimplify. You should not oversimplify healthcare. You can oversimplify it, but then your solution's not going to work. It's really complicated, and we can't do it ourselves either. we need a multidisciplinary team. We need all those other disciplines, whether it's technology, engineering, design, business modeling, et cetera. So this is just an important piece of it. We've seen the complexities, we live the complexities, and we can add that valuable input to the team. The final thing I'll just say as a distinguishing feature about Frontline Innovators, at least here, the ones I've met, there's a scientific rigor commitment. And it is so important to know that you need evidence-based solutions. In fact, the first step of evidence building is the minute you step to the whiteboard and start sketching out your idea. And the reason I say that, you have to understand the problem at an evidence-based level as best you can before you're actually going to design something that's going to solve it. So having an evidence-based understanding as best as possible of the actual problem and what you're going to solve. And then, of course, the evidence that gets you to the ideation of your solution. So these are all steps, all the way out to post-implementation. So that's another value we bring. And that's why the institution and Peter Koutsanis himself, as well as Catherine Lucy, have invested in us building this innovator enrichment team. We need to invest more in you to make your journey not just well-founded and exciting, but successful. And your journey as a career person successful, but also to get your innovation successfully launched. And so it's a big team, and some of my teammates are here tonight, so Hala and Nate, and I thank you very much for all the efforts you put into this. I have other teammates on Zoom, and you'll meet them through the course of this. So we're doing the Innovator Enrichment Program because we want to expand knowledge of UCSF as an innovation leader in academic medical centers, healthcare delivery. You can see we have quite a reputation already from what Peter showed you, but sometimes it gets a little mixed up. Sometimes people look at MIT as a great innovative campus, et cetera, where we have all the fertile soil for that, and maybe we're not making it as visible, I don't know, but our journey is still difficult for frontline innovators, just like it is at any academic center. So we want to make it clear we're a leader in this. That actually helps us bring in more resources for you. We want to diversify the innovator community and the innovation targets. So that gets down to equitable innovation, and we'll talk about that again in a minute. But our goal is really with this program to inspire, identify, and invest in our frontline innovators, even the pre-innovators, people who wouldn't necessarily say right now that I'm an innovator. And when we did that little survey on the registration, it's amazing. It was very exciting. It's exactly what we wanted to happen. People from all stages of innovator maturation are in the Zoom meeting and in the room tonight. We want to make sure that we're creating a really vibrant innovator experience. That's you and what you're experiencing, an innovator environment at UCSF. And an ecosystem, so that goes beyond the plains of UCSF. We need all of those things for you and your innovations to be successful. And that'll help increase the number, but also the quality of innovations. And we want to build a learning system, so we keep making it better. Sorry, my space nerdiness slides in here now and then. But if we can build and expand on our reputation as a leading innovation academic medical center and healthcare delivery system, that does create gravitational pull. And I think many of you have either been involved in job searches or participated in them, but the workforce for healthcare is a scarcity problem right now. We need to pay attention to how do we recruit, what makes an attractive environment, and how do we retain the workforce. And part of that is innovation now. There's an appetite for it in people that we're talking to and that are trying to come up and join the ranks of UCSF. Also, obviously, it attracts partners like Peter was showing, some of the big strategic alliances. And in the end, it opens doors for you. It gives you many more opportunities for you to be able to say, I came from this institution as a frontline innovator. And we talked a little bit about increasing the volume and the quality of the disclosures or the innovations that come through the Innovation Venture Office. We also want to make sure that we're building up your career. So you need a foundational knowledge, and you also need recognition. So we're trying to work with the advancement system for those of you on faculty, but even in your roles with your supervisors, what are some metrics that your supervisor can use to help assess your innovator activity during that year when they're reviewing you? Equitable innovation is really important. If you haven't seen this article by Keith, it's really nice to take a look at this. And I talk about equitable innovation not just, so first of all, very importantly, to diversify the innovator community, and I'll show you some examples of work we're doing to understand that, but also how do we expand the targets for innovation? So we want people who have historically been underrepresented in the opportunities to be an innovator, but then also the targets for innovation we want to expand as well, whether it's an underaddressed condition, population, or market. And Peter gave a couple examples of that. So the tenets of this program that we built, it's aligned with UCSF's mission. We started with that tonight and showed you that. And it's synergistic with other efforts on campus. I'm going to show you. We are rich with efforts on campus around this, and we're trying to figure out how to synchronize them better. It should be needs and data driven. We'll show you how we're working on that. And then also, we want to create an evolving system. So evolving our own capacities. Many of you now are experimenting with Gen AI and AI in general. We need a better understanding of the potential unintended consequences, the potential opportunities, and how can we use it in a way that's beneficial, greater than the risk it could create. So those are evolving capacities that we need to understand. And we also want the system to be very responsive to our frontline innovators. I'm not going to read through all this. Phew. It's not the right time of day. But what I do want to point out is a couple of things. There's a data, a real evidence-based piece of this, or at least information-based, some anecdote, some evidence. Access is a huge part of making your experience here better. So we're going to talk about how you can engage with us on a one-on-one basis. So a high-touch engagement or low-touch with digital resources and searchable capabilities. And then also the education career development we've mentioned a few times. So there are components under each of these categories that I'll just highlight a little bit as we go across. So on the enrichment side, we've talked a bit about how we're trying to really understand what the needs are. And we could use a lot more information from you. You're going to hear the program and you can say, but you guys forgot about this. Please send us all those comments. There'll be a survey after each one of these classes. But anytime you can reach out to us, we'll show you how. So we've tried to do a data dive. We looked at the impact database, which covers all the disclosures and their journey. Where did they go? Did they get patents filed? Did they get a license? What was it? Did they scale out into a new co, or did they get acquired? All that data we have sitting in Innovation Ventures. So we took that data, but we were missing pieces of information about the individual inventors. So we intersected with the profiles database, and that was incredibly helpful and gave us some insight. So we'll show that. We've also been doing multi-stakeholder interviews. And the next session in this series is going to be around design thinking. So you're going to hear more about that process. And then we're going to be sending out surveys. So those three tools are allowing us to understand what should we be building. We're actually already underway with some of it. So what would we need to reiterate? And then building the tools that allow us to keep monitoring. So here's an example of what we could look at. This is just number of disclosures year over year from 2014 to 2023. And just most of you know this, but I'm just going to say it. If you have an idea that you think is novel and you come to Innovation Ventures, they're going to ask you to describe it and turn it in, and that's a disclosure. And that's very oversimplified. You're going to get a big talk on how to do that and what's important, what is protectable, what's not, and under what circumstances. But that's what I mean by disclosures. And it's just a symbol of inventorship. So that's what we used for a lot of this. So if you're the lead or the co-lead as an inventor on these disclosures, we're able to track quite a bit about it. So this shows that we actually had a downward trend in disclosures. And, obviously some of this was through the pandemic, and that's understandable. Interestingly, though, on the next slide, what you can see is that the number of company formation actually went up. Now, these aren't the same disclosures as I just showed you, because it takes quite a while to ramp up to the point of exiting as a new co. But company formation, very strong here at UCSF. But obviously, we'd like to support more disclosures and higher quality disclosures. So this is just a very quick example and scratching the surface of how we can use data. Then we started looking at co-inventors and inventors and trying to profile them across the 2020s. The caveat is we're not talking about the denominator here. So we can't draw really deep assumptions, but we've been guided by it. And this is phase one. We're going back in and doing a deeper dive. But what I mean by that is we don't actually know how different these numbers are from the overall population in that group or in the potential innovators. But to say, and I'm not going to show you all the graphs because there are a lot of them, overall, what we learned was that our innovator community at UCSF is predominantly senior in their career, full professor, over 50%. But we have a lot of excited people in training, learners, and in junior tracks in their career that we really want to support. And then the other thing we learned is most of them were more than 20 years since their first publication. Again, an indication of senior in the career, people who might have more support or more luxury and time to be able to do the innovative work. As long as we're forcing people to dabble in it and not support it, that's what happens. The other is predominantly male. There definitely is a difference there. We've made some improvements in the last few decades, but still disproportionately male, and most from the School of Medicine. Now you can say, well, gosh, that's most of the faculty here anyway, but even if we break it into subsets, it helps us. And there are some incredibly inventive people in the Department of Physical Therapy and in some of the smaller departments. So we're going to actively, intentionally reach out to those groups that are underrepresented. We don't have other types of data here, the ethnicity, et cetera, yet, socioeconomic background, but we're going to be working with HR to get those intersections because we really want to profile our community and diversify it. We want innovation by all and for all, by anyone who's interested and by anyone who, and for anyone who needs it. So this is the first pass, and we're going to do a deeper dive. The other thing we're doing is we really want to get to innovations and innovators earlier. So we're throwing open the doors. We want you to reach out to us sooner, and there aren't any questions that would be inappropriate. So come early, come often with your questions, and then we can help guide you sooner. We're also going to be leveraging some of our computational capabilities that we're using in other arenas right now to start looking across awarded grants, publications, media, et cetera, and pulling out horizon technologies or people whose names we haven't heard yet. They've never come to the door of Innovation Ventures, but they are apparently highly innovative based on these documents that we have sitting in the university. So we're looking for blips on the radar screen. We want to reach out and support you much earlier. There are also funding mechanisms that do exist. Nate's going to do a nice job telling you about those because obviously all of the innovation engine requires fueling, and if you're going to get some protected time and not just dabble in the dark, then you do need funding. So those are important things for us to talk about. We're trying to add some new funding sources, something called R4s, Rapid Review, Rapid Reward. These will be small grants just to get you to the next milestone and make you more competitive for one of those other grants that Nate's going to talk about. And then adding some other challenges, but also this idea of creating problem solution teams in hackathons. Those have been incredibly productive and sometimes, but they sometimes yield amazing things because you have unlikely people gathering. We've done one before focusing on aging needs where we actually had patients on the team. We had people who had volunteered to come and participate as the senior representation, the user on the team. So the hackathons can be very fun and productive. So I want to say about the environment, it's not just Innovation Ventures. We are the exit to the world for your innovations. However, I mean, if you choose to go the commercial pathway for sure, but there are many, many other parts of our environment at UCSF that make this really fertile soil for innovation. There are more than 20 innovation initiatives, centers, programs at UCSF. Right now, they're like sprinkler heads where they mostly work on their own individually, not connected by PVC or electronic wiring. But we think we can be much more effective if we help matrix them. Not a governance, but truly they're still autonomous, but where can we come together and support each other? Also, we also need to help you know how to navigate. When would you go to Surgical Innovations or the Pediatric Device Consortium or the Rosenman? What do they each do? There's not a tapestry, a searchable storefront where you can find these things out. So we're building that for you as well. And you've seen many of the leaders along the way in your career here. And so not only am I pointing this out, these aren't all of them, these are just examples, but the leaders of these groups can also be very helpful in supporting you as a frontline innovator. They can also help mentor you. So you don't have to bring everything to us, all your questions, et cetera. There are many layers and tiers of support for you here. Also, these are individual faculty, not running innovation centers, but themselves highly productive in innovation. We're forming a faculty council to help shape embedded in innovation ventures, because we haven't really had that key component of a faculty member inside innovation ventures. And that's going to be really helpful to get those insights. So if you know people that you think should have a voice in that, and they'll rotate in and out, but please send us your thoughts on that as well. We also don't have an innovation center at UCSF, a physical space where we can gather. And it's been shown in a recent article, which I'm going to now put in my talk, that it matters, that the physical gathering of people actually does help generate and translate ideas. And it's a very interesting study. So I'm going to pass that over to you too, Dan, because I know you work in that area. So we are working on an innovation center at UCSF. We've made proposals. You can tell us what would be some of the things that you think would inspire you or help you, or what would work for you. I'm not going to read off the functional requirements that we came up with, but functional requirements, are the first thing you need to then do your build or your technical requirements. But that's driven by design thinking, stakeholder interviews. So I'm asking you for your ideas on that. Right now, what we've done is we've created a pop-up innovation center. So we are in cohabitation with the teaching lab upstairs at 227. And that is not just for us. That is for any innovation activities. So if you say, look, I have a group, we need to workshop some ideas, please let me know. And we will help get you access to the room and a space to work. And that flows out onto that nice patio, so it's got good airflow, keeping everybody healthy. So please let us know. We now have a pop-up innovation center, but we're working on a larger one, and one that would be probably based at Mission Bay, but with satellites on the other campuses, so the frontline innovators can run in and out of the OR, the clinic, or right out of your research lab, or whatever your duty is. Run over here, get some work done on innovation, come back and do your other duty. So I'm going to switch over now to Nate. Thank you for your patience walking through that. And Nate's going to tell us about some resources. These aren't all the resources available to you, but these are key ones to know about right now. And as the series goes on, we're going to keep adding to this. All right, Nate.
Thank you, Dr. Sawyer. That was a great introduction. And yeah, as we were talking, there's a lot of innovation happening across UCSF. Dr. Koutsounis talked on it. And what I'd like to do is not give you an exhaustive list of everything that's happening, all the different centers, but very actionable items that folks can do now to take action, to take that next step towards innovation. One thing I'd like to talk about is the Catalyst program. The Catalyst program has both Catalyst Awards and the Catalyst Internship. And the Catalyst Awards are part of UCSF's Translational Accelerator, focused on advancing UCSF discoveries for patient benefit and commercialization. The Catalyst program enhances early translational research and entrepreneurship education for UCSF innovators. This includes faculty, students, staff, trainees, learners. And the Catalyst Awards provide project seed funding up to $100,000. And I'm going to get into how this process works, but it's really strongly based on this phenomenal group of external advisors that we have. So this is how we like to talk about the Catalyst program and the Catalyst Awards and our translational accelerator of ideas coming in from whether it's a therapeutic, a diagnostic, medical device, digital health, or a biotool, kind of comes in through the RAP cycle. We'll also touch on that. And through a combination of discovery science, clinical science, commercialization experience, and translational science, we work with the UCSF Innovation Ventures team, specifically the Office of Technology Management and Advancement, to turn these ideas that become products into an exit. That could be an incubator, that could be an SBIR, STTR grant, accelerators, igniters, all sorts of different licenses and partners. And so the way that the Catalyst Awards work in this process is that initially, this is in combination with the invention disclosure, where somebody thinks that they have something novel, they disclose that to the Office of Technology Management and Advancement. And we share this with our group of external advisors. This is our Catalyst Award Selection Committee. These are people who have tons of experience in science, whether they're serial entrepreneurs or they've been chief medical officers in biotech and medtech and digital health. And they review this application. They provide lots of great feedback to the PIs and the teams. And from there, we select which teams will move on to the next round. And this round is the finalist pitch, again, to this external advisory group, the Catalyst Advisor Selection Committee, who listens to the presentations, provides more feedback, asks questions, and through that process, we determine who will be the Catalyst awardees. And once they receive the Catalyst Award, it's not like, oh, here's your money, see you later. We try to have some very active hand-holding in this innovation process. One of the big post-award activities is the creation of a target product profile. The target product profile is a big document that pretty much all biotech has to do as they're becoming a company. And it's all different questions, whether it's biostats, prototyping, the regulatory, how is this going to be reimbursed? How is this going to be commercialized? Is this a good idea for a startup, or is this better to license? And the advisors come again, they listen to these presentations of the TPP, provide more feedback. So we're continuing to work with the innovators to turn their ideas along the translational pathway into products for patient benefit and commercialization. And the Catalyst Awards, we're going to talk about it in wrap, but they open at the end of August. I believe it's August 29th is when the wrap cycle starts. So more on that in a moment. But before we get to that, I want to touch on the Catalyst Summer Internship. This is a learner opportunity for grad students, med students, postdocs, medical residents, clinical fellows. And these folks who become Catalyst interns have a lot of active participation with the Catalyst awardees. We pair them with the awardees, and they work with them to develop these target product profiles, provide some great seminars to learn more and more about the commercialization process. The deadline for this is May 24th, so 5-6 weeks. The applications are open now, and the QR code goes directly to the application. So now this WRAP thing that I keep on talking about, it's the Resource Allocation Program. It serves as a sort of consortium for UCSF funders, where the applicants, generally UCSF PIs, apply for different sorts of grants. And these grants can be in technology, they can be in career development, they can be pilots. So at whatever stage that your idea, your innovation might be in, it might not yet be at the end stage ready for a Catalyst Award, but it could be ready for some more basic science research and studies. So this is an opportunity for folks within UCSF to apply for awards and funding. And Catalyst is one of these grants in there. WRAP offers 2 cycles, one in the fall. Looks like the deadline is August, or it opens August 29th. I believe it goes to October 3rd. And then there's another one that's in the spring cycle. But this is the most immediate opportunity for one of the different awards and grants that are available on WRAP. And that can be found at wrap.ucsf.edu. Another resource I'd like to talk about, we just wrapped this up probably about a month or so ago. So the next one will be starting in the late fall. We haven't set the date yet, but likely sometime between late October and early December. The Appathon is an opportunity for UCSF investigators to, again, could be the postdocs, could be residents, fellows, faculty, to submit project proposals for an iOS app. And then the Appathon Selection Committee reviews these proposals and selects which ones will move forward. From there, these projects are paired with UC Berkeley engineering students and engineering fellows who work with the UCSF teams to develop a prototype app. And the teams usually have about 2 weeks to put this app together. And again, lots of great handholding. We do office hours with some really good Apple developers. We provide different open source toolkits so that the engineers and the PIs can really work on their ideas, and a little bit of an innovation sprint to get it to that next stage, usually ending in a working prototype app. And then the teams present their apps at a live demo to a panel of judges. Dr. Sawyer was a judge this year. We have judges from Apple. We have judges from industry. And there's a professor from Berkeley who has really strong stakes and interest in this. So we make sure that he's a judge as well. And what you're looking at, that picture there is the most recent winning team. This was visualized. It was Derek Chang. He is a medical resident at UCSF. And his idea, after working in the neuro ICU for so long, was how tricky it is to measure dilated and constricted pupils in the neuro ICU. There's a very, very expensive machine that's available that, you know, academic medical centers like UCSF have, but in rural areas and community hospitals, it's not always there and accessible. So his idea was to use the, you know, the very sophisticated iPhone camera to turn it into a mobile pupilometer, which also is, you know, tremendous data, when normally the current approach is very subjective, of somebody walking in and saying, oh, the pupil is dilated a little bit, constricted a little bit, and then how that could change from provider to nurse to physician who checks on the patient. So that was the winning project, and there are tons of more of great ideas, and when we find the date and the next steps for that, we'll be sure to share it with folks. Another big topic I want to touch on is the Masters of Translational Medicine. It's a one-year professional master's. It's an intensive program that's designed to transform students into professionals capable of bringing clinical innovations to life. The backgrounds that people are coming into the Masters in Translational Medicine program are very diverse, and it's incredibly interdisciplinary teams. It could come from a MD physician background, they could come from a business background, they could come from marketing background. And all the students who enroll in the MTM program get a very broad academic experience of translational medicine and everything that it takes to get the idea to a product, from regulation and clinical needs. Attracts lots of engineers and scientists as well. And the multidisciplinary teams focus on all aspects of the medical translation process. So technical development, prototyping, examination of intellectual property, market scoping, and the business case development. And so this is if you want to participate and get this MTM degree. Though if you don't want to get that degree, but you still want to be involved, the other option is to submit your idea to become one of the projects that the MTM students work on. This is the MTM Capstone Project, and it's the centerpiece of this year-long project. And this is another opportunity where the students get the real-world experience to turn the innovations that folks are submitting to the capstone to life. Project types are both therapeutic and medical device. Project ideas open on June 15th. The link's there, as well as a QR code if you're interested in submitting an idea for a capstone project. Another great innovation resource that I want to share with you guys is the Global Entrepreneurship course. I think I saw Stephanie on the call earlier. Stephanie works really hard on this course. She's learned a lot over the past few years when it started during COVID to focus on life science and entrepreneurship. It's completely virtual. There are students from all over the world. It's a 10-week course. The diverse ideas that come into this course are phenomenal. They come from all walks of life, come from all, bio to pharma to medical device to digital health, across the entire world. And it's a really good opportunity to develop your idea, to network with others interested in the entrepreneurship and turning their ideas into products as well. The link for the fall 2024 is now open. I encourage you guys to check that out, learn more, and apply. Next, I'm going to touch on this briefly is the UCSF Clinical and Translational Science Institute. This is also known as CTSI. They do a whole slew of things, both developing infrastructure and services across UCSF. So if you're a UCSF innovator and you have a question of, whether it's building your clinical trial, or it's getting a consultation on data, or where am I going to store this bioinformatics information, or leveraging some of the latest and greatest tools, CTSI is a great resource for that. All right, thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Sawyer.
Nate, that was a great job. Thank you. And we'll keep adding more resources each time we meet, that ones that you might not have heard, or new deadlines, new opportunities. So I'm going to now move into the ecosystem. Remember, that's through the plane of UCSF. Incredibly important. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just so you can see that we really sit in an incredibly robust environment where we are geographically. But just staying in isolation, we can get a lot done. But if we start leveraging our external key opinion leaders, advisors like Nate showed are very, very critical to the Catalyst program, external services, other disciplines, other UC campuses, and even some of the resources from Office of the President, and then moving out further, looking at the many innovation hubs, incubators, accelerators that are all around us, and that we now have access to internationally. And beyond that, our industry partners and our academic and nonprofit strategic partners. So we are very, very fortunate, but we need to also be intentional about understanding that there is hybrid vigor that comes with partnering outside of our own institutions. So that's really the point of how do we help you get those opportunities, even including helping get you externships, which we've done for several frontline innovators who want to understand more from the industry side or the business side or the engineering shop. So we've done those programs as well. So we really want to increase our external exposure. We want to increase the connectivity across the ecosystem and help you gain opportunities for intersection and experiences. So an example of this would be the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. Many of you have probably heard of it, but maybe not ever attended. This year, for the first time, UCSF actually held an innovation showcase right downtown, and we had the advantage of all the people who had come to town, especially from the venture community, who gathered with us. We're also going to be putting on an annual UCSF Innovation Summit here, again on a national scale and with an external audience as well. But here are some examples of the vibrancy and the intersections that were created that night at JP Morgan, and many things launched out of that. So we're going to keep doing that as well as our own Innovation Summit here. Basically, I think we're hearing more and more now that UCSF is thought of as setting the bar for academic medical centers and healthcare delivery systems with a vibrant and productive innovation environment and a prolific and diverse innovator community. And we're proud of that, and we think we can do better. So with your help, your input, your participation, I think we're on a really good path here. We're going to add on to the program as it looks like impact versus effort makes sense, or most importantly, based on your feedback. So don't be hesitant to tell us things. The next in this series is going to be some actual tools for you, design thinking, design processes, but also some tools of the trade. And this will be brought to you by Christian Chu, Beth Barine, who have been at SomTech, School of Medicine Technology Services, for many years, and they've built an incredible team. They've also built a toolkit. So if you want a sneak peek, go to SomTech website and look at the toolkits that they've built. But they're going to teach you how to actually scope out and understand the problem better, and then how to go through the process of ideation and developing a solution that combines human-centered design thinking, like from the IDEO days, with the lean launchpad Stephen Blank customer discovery process, and then help you build out a canvas that will take you to the next level. Then they also talk to you about how do you create wireframes? How do you create something where you have a minimally viable prototype that you can expose to people and get user feedback? So it's going to be an exciting session they're going to walk you through. So I think at this point, we're just at a point where it's a good time to say a few next steps that I would recommend. One is sign up for the next in the series, and you can do that with that QR code that is on the one that we used before. You can also sign up for one-on-one innovator office hours with us, and I'll show you our emails are at the bottom there, so reach out to me. You can also put in, I think it's innovation.ucsf, isn't it? The link into Innovation Ventures, and just say I want office hours with the Innovator Enrichment Program, and that'll come right to us. And then we're going to start a scheduling program. There'll be a form where you can actually just sign yourself up for certain hours, and we're going to launch that next week. Get to the IV website, Innovation Venture website, scroll around. It's going to transform very, very soon. It'll look different. It's very usable right now, and you can learn a lot from it. But one thing you'll see is innovation events going on and opportunities. And then do engage with those activities. Even if you're not ready to innovate something, spend time building your community and getting to know who you can go to for advice or even just for the fun of talking about it. And do please provide us feedback so we can make all of this better for you. Thank you very much. We're at a point where we can have discussion, Q&A. Nate, you'll feed us questions from Zoom if there are some coming in. Any comments in the room or questions? Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi, and I don't know, can the people on Zoom hear me, or should I come up, or you can hear? Okay, great, excellent, room mics. Hi, thank you, super useful and interesting. I'm Daniel Wolf from the joint UCSF and Berkeley program on computational precision health. And my question is actually about some of the slides, Peter, that you showed that were about, or even that Nate referenced about joint UCSF Berkeley collaborations, although I guess it's really a wider question about across UC. Is there an articulated path for, or has it been a problem around intellectual property claims, or is it all sort of to the UC regions and fairly easy to negotiate? And if that's a thorny question or too complicated, feel free to just say, like, we could talk about it later or something. And then secondly, I just wanted to say that I know that many of my computationally innovative colleagues are sort of trying to negotiate the question of patenting, trade secrets, et cetera, around algorithms and things that are not target products in the traditional sense. And in case anyone's interested, on May 6th, someone from the Berkeley Law School will be talking specifically about algorithms, patents, trade secrets, and sort of law and practice. The law, of course, is not dispositive. It's indicative of things. People are finding their different ways through, but in case it's of interest, it will be on Zoom, and and also on our website, et cetera.
That's perfect. And we'll get the link and share it with the people who've registered here. Yeah, thank you. And we're going to have a presentation on that as well in this course. And it's evolving. As you know, you and I are working on issues around that with the new AI and Gen AI problems around what's protectable and what's not and that. So thank you for that. And to your first question, yes, it's all UC, but there's still a cultural issue between the inventors and the different campuses. So it all needs to be navigated and made transparent and documented. But typically, most things revert back to the sense that it's all UC. Do you want to comment on that, Peter? You've done several of these.
Yes, so inevitably it comes back to, are you truly inventive, conception and reduction to practice? And that's US patent law. That's not me, that's not the campus. And so if there's ever a dispute, you do an inventorship analysis through a law firm on the outside. And so when we built these programs together, just an idea that leads to the reduction to practice, often you see folks become inventive and they get on the patent, and then there's a policy around how income is shared down the road, hopefully when there is some revenue from that licensed product. So it's US patent law. There can be an inventorship analysis. We've done multiple joint programs with UC Berkeley, unless we choose to deviate from the process. And then each office comes together with the disclosure, like you and your colleagues have discovered something. It rises to the level of invention, inventorship. It's not just authorship on a paper, like you truly are, and that's a patent law thing. And you don't want to get it wrong. If you miss out on an inventor on a patent, you get it wrong, you can invalidate the patent. So there are some guardrails. Some of it's patent law, some of it's policy, but it can work. It's not so straightforward, but it does work.
Your question actually brought up something that I just want to put out there tonight, the first night, which is that's disclosure. There's another really, really, really important document that you should all know about, and that's an NDA. And that is something that is done at a couple of different offices, industry contracts, but also some are done by us. But that is something that's very, very important to know about. And that is so that, and it should be a two-way NDA, and you should use the UCSF one to start with, otherwise it's going to sit with lawyers for a long time. But that's when an outside entity wants to talk to you. before you share anything proprietary, and if you're not sure, don't share it. Before you do that, it's very important to get an NDA and really try to learn that you are valuable. Your ideas are really valuable, not just your data, but your thoughts. And so it's hard sometimes because our PIs are a bit unarmed in these conversations, and we have industry and outside partners coming in all the time and engaging directly with faculty. And so I just want you to know that you're very valuable. Your ideas are very valuable. And so if you could err on the side of sharing less or something that you know is already public information, and then reach out to us and we'll help you establish whatever's the right level of conversation, the right non-proprietary slide deck, and also get the right form in place to help protect you and your ideas. Any other questions in the room? Oh, I see one in the back.
So I definitely came to this on a whim, and was like, this looks kind of interesting, and I found this very, very informative. So thank you so much for all of these resources. So I'm a postdoc at the Proctor Foundation across the street, and I am like very alien to the world of like business and entrepreneurship. Like I do research that like I'm trying to publish a paper. So this whole lead up is sort of like how, for someone who's like very naive to this world, like I have no idea what would count as like an idea substantial enough for a business or for license. Like I don't actually know any of that. I'm curious as to how you would encourage people who are coming from a completely academic mindset to sort of think about that.
First thing is write down my email address and email me and we'll get started. I'm so glad you said that. The other is even presenting or submitting an abstract or a paper, if you have novel ideas in there, please talk to us before you even get to that stage. Because once they're out in the public, it's hard to make them protectable. And they may not all be, but then you've sort of given away your choice or your opportunity for that. But we're really serious. We want to engage with you one-on-one, and at the pre-innovator stage is a perfect time to engage on this.
May I have the follow-up sorting question?
Please.
Is there someone or some type of person who might be listening to this or here that might not be a good fit or a good partner for Innovation Ventures? I've heard a lot of biotech, a lot of target design, those sorts of things. If you have some medical model, or if you have something that hasn't sort of fit into those buckets, would those people still be ones to come?
Absolutely. Remember, I did it as a throwaway phrase, but it's my fundamental belief that we innovate in personnel, process, and technology. And if there is a concept that's novel, potentially impactful, and scalable, it may not always be protectable. It might be copyright. But even the application of it could be something that we would discuss. So yes, it doesn't have to be a device or a molecule. There are many categories of innovation. Clinical pathways, even clinical processes. And you may say, look, I want it to go out as for the good of the whole. I don't want to commercialize this. I do try to work with innovators to say, however, if you want something to go out and many people to benefit, you still need a sustainable business model or it's going to die at the end of the next grant. A nice example is Prepare for Your Care. Rebecca Sedora built this platform. It came through Catalyst when I was advising on the digital health track. And even there, it's very important. If you want to scale something and benefit more people, then you do need a sustainable business model. And it may not always be that you're going to form a for-profit company.
And one of the things we do, you do disclose, there's a market first analysis, like, is it novel? Is there a market? Sometimes you don't know, the market emerges. We have entrepreneurs in residence that can look at this thing, you know what, if you did A, B, and C, and D, it could be a startup. Or if you de-risk this, and so sometimes you don't know, the neuropathic pain market, we didn't know it was going to be so well served by gabapentin until gabapentin emerged, but we knew there was some unmet medical needs. So it's not always the market is obvious. Sometimes it is, but we can help you from that early assessment. So you know what, there could be a product and it is novel, and we should protect it in some type of form. And so that's the early conversation. Or there isn't a massive market and revenue stream, but it's impactful to health. It's the Artemis skid sort of immune deficiency in adult children. It's still important to the campus and worthwhile going to the FDA and making a difference. So it depends.
And we can even help guide you on how to vet the solution that you have in mind. And this gets into a little bit more the evidence-based problem understanding and ideation of solution, which we'll get to later. But just to say that the more you understand about the problem, the better, because then you can generate a functional requirements list. What would it take to solve that problem? Why am I frustrated with the tools they've given me in clinic when I know we could do this better? And then the next step beyond understanding and driving a functional requirements list, because you know that drives your technical requirements, is creating a due diligence grid where you put your functional requirements in the column, the first column on the left, then you list all the companies or nonprofit solutions that are in that space. Because you've probably already shopped. You've probably thought, well, if I could find it off the shelf, I would just implement it. But you probably can't. So list those and then tick which of the functional requirements are met and which ones aren't. And hopefully with your solution, you're going to be ticking all the boxes. But it gives you a chance to say what's out there. Maybe you don't need to build this thing. Maybe there's something good enough you could modify it a little bit, either on your own or in a co-development model with a company. Or maybe yours is so distinctly different and very valuable that that's what you want to do. So those are some exercises that we go through, and if you come to us at any stage in that, we can help guide you. You've been a great audience. Oh yes, there's one more.
I'm Vinod. I'm doing postdoc from ophthalmology department. My question is, whenever I attend for this entrepreneurship talks, people talk about innovation, innovative ideas get funding. There are high chances to get fund for innovation, innovative ideas. So what about the revenue generation out of it?
Could you say the last part one more time?
What about revenue generation out of the innovative ideas?
How do you define that?
Yeah.
So that's really important. The business modeling of whether how are you going to generate revenue, or how are you even going to get it to pay for itself? And I may not be tracking your question exactly right, but the business modeling aspect. So the target product profile is important, but also the market analysis, because you have to understand also, which I'm sure you do already, that the users aren't always the same as the payers. And in our business, unfortunately, we're in this healthcare, fee-for-service healthcare model. Is it reimbursable? Are there codes for it? Is someone going to pay for it? Or are you just adding cost to the healthcare system without a justifiable either cost savings or a return on investment? And I'm not sure if I actually answered your question.
I got it.
Close enough. But that again, this is a case-by-case discussion. Like we really want to teach you some general terms about it so you even know the right questions to ask. But we're always welcome to hear your individual case example as well, because I know you've been in this space for a bit.
The Innovator series, is it monthly for the rest of the year, or is it like?
Yes, there may be a gap in August.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Your feedback's going to be important. You will get a little survey, but also watch for signing up for next time. Since you've already shown up, we'll ping you and make sure you don't miss the opportunity next time. But your feedback's going to be really helpful to us. Thank you very much for your attention.